Welcome to this week's episode, guys. We are currently in a bedding area, probably the best bedding area on this property, or at least was at one point. This bedding area is extremely thick, full of woody browse. That's actually all it is. It's really high in stem count. Unfortunately, it's actually too thick. So what I noticed throughout this deer season was most of the mature bucks I had on trail camera, one way or another, were using this bedding area. Unfortunately, I don't think they were using this bedding area to its fullest potential by any means. I can tell by the lack of tracks, rubs, and scrapes inside of this thicket to my right here. We really need to create pockets, and we need to create exit strategies for them. And by hinge cutting and clear cutting and just trimming lanes, we can definitely improve this bedding area. To my left here, there's a timber pond, which we don't currently hunt this timber pond, but I'm definitely planning on it once we create a better transition through this bedding area to the water source for these deer. Then I can kind of force them to go down to the water in a certain way, and then I'll create access to a deer stand, hopefully. This is all just up the hill from our major green plot. So if we don't have access to get to this timber pond, that's okay. It's just nice to have water next to the bedding. That's going to encourage them just that much more to bed in this. So we created a funnel through here for them. It took us about an hour and a half of cutting. And then right here is the main trail east and west. There's a food plot to the east. There's also food plots to the west. And we want them to also be able to move north and south through here. So I'm going to hinge cut everything like this so that they can still walk this main trail, but then they'll have trails going north and south on this as well. And then when we get close to the neighbor's property, I'm probably going to make a wall there, and I'll have it funnel out into our, we got an oak flat over there. It's a big ridge, and I'll make a nice trail taking them out on that, put a hinge wall along there. So then as they're transitioning through there, they don't cross over to the neighbors, and that feeds them right into our next green plot. We got a ton of deer stands on that oak flat right now. We've been moving around. Access is really good on that spot. So today we just want to get in here and talk about enhancing your bedding areas. If you have a place you know deer are bedding, go in there, figure out what they're lacking or what they have too much of. And for us, it's too much woody browse. Not a bad thing. I love woody browse. It's 60% of their diet. I just want to make it to where they can at least get through here a little better, especially the mature bucks. I mean, I know they'll crash through this stuff, but it's extremely thick. This is the only open spot right here so far. We just made this trail. It was more or less, we wanted to make a four-wheeler sized trail in case we harvest deer that we can get up here and pull them out of here. But this is definitely the number one bedding area on this farm. We want to enhance it. We want them to keep using it. So we're going to make trails going down to our timber pond, make trails going to our oak flat, and then we'll also make trails going to both of our food sources. We're creating a 360 line of motion on this farm, and then we're blocking off all the neighbors, and then the only openings they have are out into ag, and there's some creek crossings and stuff, and we're not really too worried about where they go at night anyway. We just want to keep them in here during daylight. So we're going to get back on the chainsaw here. We're going to keep cutting, but I just want to talk about enhancing your bedding areas and what you guys can do. One of the best things you can do is wait until around March. I know we're a little early right now, but March is a great time. Go in, see if you can find sheds, see if you can find rubs, scrapes. You already know the deer are bedding there based off of if you're seeing beds. Now, I'm not seeing a lot of beds here right now, but that's okay. I know they don't bed as much on this property during the winter, but during the fall, I know for a fact they're in here just based off trail cameras. I like to put one cell cam in the bedding area. That way I know for sure that the bucks that I'm targeting are in the bedding areas, and I'm not just assuming they're in here based off the amount of cover. But typically the thicker cover is going to be your bedding areas, but that's not always the case. They'll bed on benches, hillsides, flats, lots of other places as well. Typically they're not bedded right on the food, maybe early season and late season, but this is going to be a killer spot during the fall. So thanks guys for tuning in on this week's episode. If you're not in your bedding areas, get in there now, start making cuts, figure out what you need to do to improve them. And if they're too thick, do like I'm doing and creating pockets and lines of movement, but make sure those lines of movement make sense and you're directing them towards either a food source, ag fields, deer stands, scrapes, things like that. Don't just randomly come in and cut the place, or you're not going to create that line of movement you want. Thanks for tuning in, guys.